Hello and welcome to the Blueprint. I am so thrilled today to be joined by my good friends Rea and Alex. They are the co-creators of Unreachable. Rea Frey is a best-selling author, a book coach, and a wellness practitioner. Alex Holguin is a breathwork facilitator, a master Reiki energy healer, and they are advocates for slowing down and reconnecting with what truly matters in life. Welcome to the Blueprint.
Well, thanks for having us. Excited to
Yes.
be here.
So glad that you're here. And so we met on a trip to Mount Shasta in
Oh,
2020. Was that 2023, I think?
was it 23? That seems like
March of 2023.
a million years ago.
It,
That was wild.
it was such a wild, like the amount of stories from that trip alone could be its own blueprint
It
podcast.
really could. It should. It should and could.
Totally. But today, what you are doing with Unreachable is so important. And I think of you all so often, especially on days when I'm on Zoom for the majority of the day. And I'm just like, this feels so unnatural. And my heart and my soul are like screaming at me. So with that in mind, would love to segue to both of you in terms of introductions, your story. The other thing I love and want to mention is that you are a married couple who I find so much inspiration and so much just affirmation in your relationship and your love. So just kind of going to introducing yourselves and your story.
Amazing. Well, thanks. Do you want to go first?
You can go.
All right. Yes, and we've been together
Just sit in front of me.
15 years. And so when we were thinking about building Unreachable, this started for me because we are parents to a 12-year-old daughter, and I am so concerned about the digital addiction problem that I feel like kids specifically have now more than ever, and parents and just people, even if you're not a parent, just I truly believe it is the biggest addiction of our lifetime. And I started seeing it in my own author journey, where I was so excited and always have been so excited to create. I know that we are all creators, but I love putting words on a page. And when I envisioned becoming an author, I thought, oh my gosh, I get to just create books and then sell a bunch of copies and live in my pajamas and live happily ever after. And very, very swiftly, social media became the hub of the conversation around what it means to be an author and to be a creative and put yourself out there. And so while I was creating these books, then I felt all this pressure to grow this massive platform, to be connected to potential readers and other authors and pay attention all of the time, put all of my time and attention into this little tiny screen, with on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, all these different places. And I, just like you said, I felt so, I don't know, like disconnected from myself and my heart and my soul and where I really wanted to be placing my time and attention. So with every single book, I've put out 8 novels in 6 years, and I became more and more disenchanted with where everyone truly was placing their time and attention, and kept asking, like, why are we doing it this way? This doesn't feel good for our bodies. It doesn't feel good for our mental health or our emotional health. Every time I log on to Instagram, I'm immediately in comparison mode and just really want to get back to my real life. So I started examining it first from a creative's perspective, and then this word unreachable just kept coming up in our conversations. Like, God, what would it feel like to just, when we were first talking about it, like just be unreachable. Like I'm on call 24/7. I'm reachable by text. I'm reachable by email. I'm reachable online 24 hours a day. And it doesn't feel human. It doesn't feel good in my body. But then we really started playing around with this word and concept and kind of came back to just two simple questions. What do you want to become unreachable to in your life? So that could be digital addiction, scarcity, lack, your mom, social media, fear, all of these things. And then what do you want to reach for? What do you want to call into your life? And so we started, just really examining not only the neuroscience and data behind what all of this digital addiction is doing to us. Truly, you cannot argue with the stats, and I'm sure we'll get into some of those. um but just how do we actually all want to feel, and why have we all agreed that we're just going to be so plugged in all the time and so hyper connected? So we decided to kind of jump into building this business. And I'll let Alex, tell his story, but it felt and feels like a very important mission, because I think everybody feels the same way. We're more hyper connected than we've ever been, but we're more disconnected and isolated and removed from how we actually want to feel and live in daily life. So it's kind of our mission, is to help people remember how they can feel using their body as the tool. Your turn.
Well, yeah, mine goes along kind of in a similar fashion. I decided around 2019 to start the whole rabbit hole birth work, and then around, I'd say right before we went to Mount Shasta, I was like, I'm done being a designer. I want to go all in on breath work. And I started to find that, my peers, my teachers in breath work and everything, it was still a lot of the same. It was like, you got to be on social media, you got to do a Facebook funnel, you got to do these things. And I get excited about it, and I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a video on Instagram about this breathing pattern, and I'm going to share it, and it's going to blow up and all this stuff. And I get started doing it, and I do a take, or I'd start writing the description about it, be like, this is just taking too long, I don't want to do it. And or I'd post it and it'd get, you know 20 views or something like that. And it just ended up chasing views and things like that, instead of really leaning into, yeah, how do I want to feel, how do I want to make this practice and have people receive it, and get clients and things like that. And when she started, you know, mentioning the word unreachable, all these things just started kind of clicking into place. And, you know, and they're still clicking into place, which is the beautiful thing about it. And, I think it's becoming less about being unreachable to, these things and screens, and then, but yeah, truly understanding, like, do I want to feel like this? Do I want to do this? Can I say no? Do I have to say yes to these things? And just kind of retraining ourselves to, you know, reach for what we really want to feel, act like, be, and go about our lives.
Yeah, there's something, I think you're illustrating about the debilitating nature of feeling beholden to this
Mhm.
perspective
Ugh.
social media,
Yeah.
like madness, truly, because I feel the same way. Like it just is not something that appeals to my soul. And there, I think I love your mutual kind of realization of this unreachable nature, almost in a like a fantasizing way. Like it's wild that that's like our fantasy, to be like
It is. Yeah.
to be disconnected. But it's funny because a call before this, I was talking to a friend who's over in France, and she was sharing a story about how her sister's child, basically, when the phone is taken away and when they're not allowed to be on the phone, there's this like violent kind of uprising reaction. And I've witnessed that also with my child. It's like there is such this chemical connection for children that seems really, really wildly inappropriately intentional and
Yep.
calculated. but the reactions are so visceral and like almost violent when they're taken away, or when, you know, you have to break free from that. And
Yep.
it isn't, when what I've witnessed from it is that it's not actually the person. It's not like the real person. It's not this little child. It's like a weird version of like whatever the chemicals are doing are producing this like weird thing that I can't name, but I'm sure you know a lot more about what that actually factually is.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, it's the parents' nightmare, right? Like everybody says that, like, my kid turns into a monster when I take the screen away. And there is a reason why. I mean, we have to remember as humans, we were never supposed to even experience what like social media addiction is, or streaming, or putting an iPad in front of your kid when they're 6 years old, which is completely messing up their neurotransmitters and getting all of the signals wrong, and the blue light exposure, the EMF. I mean, there are a million different factors, and we can kind of go into that, but the exposure alone, like, so all of these companies, and everybody, I feel like everybody knows this, but we're just like, it's just the way it is. But they are built to steal your time and attention. That is their only job. It is to create compulsive behavior. Average, not even average, sorry, high users reach for their phones over 5,000 times per day. The average person's around like 2,700. And imagine if you swapped out a drug for that. If you were reaching for a drug or cigarettes or a drink 2,700 times a day, 5,000 times per day, you would not be here. But these have such devastating effects on adults, on kids, and yet we still we still have them. We still are beholden to them because we are all addicts. And it's why, like, digital detoxes and things like that don't really work, because we take the drug away for a short period of time, and then the moment,
You reintroduce it.
yeah, it's a habit. It becomes a habit. Like, there's some, that Aristotle quote, I think, we are what we practice. And what most of us practice is getting really good, spending 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours a day scrolling, posting on our computers, checking email. We're not learning skills. And we have to start thinking about how it's affecting our brains, how it's changing the landscape of our emotions. And you can talk about the dopamine. I mean, for kids specifically, I mean, this is also really huge for adults, but it is so changing our children's brains. And I mean, if you are a parent, your kids really pay attention to what you do, not just what you say. And so if you're telling them like, oh, there needs to be restriction, or I'm taking this away, but then you're on your phone, or they watch what you do, they model what you do. So we have to start really paying attention to what we're doing, and knowing some of the stats and data, I think, can be a little bit of a wake up call. Sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
But yeah, talk about the kind of neurotransmitter, the dopamine.
Well, so when you think about back to when I was a kid, so I'm 44 years old. So when I was a kid, I, would play soccer, and you would get orange slices at halftime. When you won on the soccer game as a kid, in my day, you know, you could ride that dopamine high of winning for, I don't know, hours, days, the week even. And then I would come back down and regulate and go on about my day. Nowadays, especially with these, you know, you get a dopamine hit that lasts roughly 20 to 30 seconds, and then it starts to come back down. So your neurotransmitters are going like, no, that didn't last long enough. I want another one. So you just trigger it again, and then again, and then again, and then again. And then you get this low level line of miniature dopamine hits. So you're not truly going up and being upregulated by that and feeling good about it and letting it last and go through your body and go about your day with that. You're just constantly pinging it, pinging it, pinging it, and it never comes down. You never re-regulate. So your body gets used to, okay, I'm just going to do dopamine, and they're going to be tiny little hits, tiny little hits. And the same thing happens with adrenaline and stress.
Mhm.
serotonin, oxytocin. We're not creating that window of length that we used to have to where your body can truly feel through it, notice it, do all the things that it needs to do with it, and then come back down to normal baseline. We're just constantly we're creating a new baseline and then riding that baseline throughout our days 24/7. And so that when the iPad does get taken away, that's, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because all the receptors, all the neurotransmitters are just so out of whack that that's the only way that they know how to respond.
Wow. Wow. That's powerful. And I love your storytelling of the soccer win, because I remember, that really, I do remember that. Like, you could be on a high for a half a day or the weekend, or, and so it's so interesting because this economy of distraction, this intentional distraction, like, I kind of see it as a trifecta of problems. It's like taking us away from community, taking us away from hearing ourselves and our own inner voice and our inner desires. And it's also disconnecting us from nature. And so, like, why do you think this is? Like, what is the end game of the distraction economy? Is it truly just profit in this now moment? Or is there something bigger? I mean, this is a really obviously a radical and unprovable question, but like, what do you think the purpose of all this is?
I think it's to keep us asleep and hypnotized distraction is the name of the game. I mean, I think it is the baseline for most people because back in the day, like you just said, you know, if you went to take, like, if something exciting happened, or even like maybe you get in a fight with someone back in the day, like you would take a walk, I used to lay it in my room with my lava lamp on, listening to music, staring at the ceiling with my fake stars on it, and take time to figure out and process how I feel. And I think because we are so distracted and we're tuning in constantly, we were picking up our phones so many times to check what, to get our next fix and to get our next hit, that it keeps us away from ourselves. It keeps us away from really being present with other people, which is, we have constructed so many different rules about technology and where it shows up and where it doesn't, and having those boundaries. But I really think, like, yes, of course, the more distracted people are, the more unhappy they are, the more they're going to consume things that are not going to be make them happy, and be in fear and tune into the news and media. And it keeps us in this perpetual cycle of stress, chronic stress, looking for our next hit, being so anxious and nervous, and buying, consuming, hiding, instead of really understanding our truest nature. And we are so much more powerful than we think we are, but we are just inundated with information all day, every day. Like, that stat, it's crazy. Like, we take in what
It's
is it,
11 million bits of information per second
per second
every single day. And that's seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting,
through all the senses.
skin, everything. But our brains, our conscious minds, can only sort through 50 to 100 bits of that information, and the rest is stored in our subconscious.
Which is wild, because think about that. And I don't know if anyone's ever done this, but if maybe you're not a big social media user, maybe you do have good boundaries with your phone, but most of us have a computer. And if you have ever looked up and you have 30 tabs open, or you go to your history and just look under one day, how many different things that you look up in one day, and your brain, it's not able to process. It's not able to process that much information. And it is a problem that we just have kind of accepted as the norm. And so I think there is a bigger play here. I mean, the one of the stats that when we were looking to build Unreachable, because we really did go down the research rabbit hole. We're like, we want to know exactly what what this this usage, this hyperconnectivity is doing to our brains. And one stat that nearly stopped me cold is that we will spend 44 years of our lives behind screens. 44 years.
Wow.
And that is not okay. I mean, I want to spend 44 years like in the woods or
Yeah.
with loved ones. And it's the same thing, like he said, the 11 bits of information. It's the same thing with when you are building, quote unquote, building these online communities, which now everyone feels like they have to have a following, a platform, they have to be an influencer, they have to build. More is better, which is absolutely untrue. But as humans, we were never meant to hold more than 150 connections at one time. And 150, even human to human, back in the day was a lot. I mean, used to, you were with your village, you were with your community, you were having meals together and sitting around the fire and singing songs and really only kind of being and living and communing with the people who were around you. And now it couldn't be more opposite. And it's why children who are so connected, I feel like online now more than ever before, even if they spend more, like the kids ages 8 to 12 are spending 4 to 6 hours a day online. Teens are 7 hours a day and up, and that's not including schoolwork. And it ups their risk by suicide, by suicidal thoughts, like by 70% if you are locked into your screens for multiple hours a day. That automatically goes up the everything for depression, anxiety, but children thinking about taking their own lives because of what comparison, isolation, everything, this filtered life that they're seeing online and thinking that they are so separate from that. It's a To me, it is just, it's reached a critical point. And what's so funny is when you take kids away from that, and even adults, and you put them in nature, you put them in community, you instantly feel better. Like that is the coolest thing about this. Like, yes, your child might freak out for 2 seconds when you take the iPad away, but when you start balancing it, like we do something where, our kid does, we're not saying like move off grid, get a landline. Technology is part of our lives. So that is, first and foremost. We're wanting to help people thrive in this hyper connected world. But so like our daughter, she does love listening to podcasts. Actually, she's always listening to a podcast. And she loves listening to music. So if she's on her iPod a lot, she has to balance that with some non-tech activity. So like, let's go walk the dog for 45 minutes, and she doesn't even have a phone, but phones are left at home, and we can connect and be in nature. Let's go build a fire, jump on the trampoline. So you can learn to kind of balance those things, but kids and adults are happier when you are removed from these devices, because your brain and body, like Alex said, are able to start regulating, and the effects can be pretty immediate, which is amazing. But most of us have just become really good at being plugged in, so much so that we don't know another way, and we don't think that we could fill our time in other ways. And I would challenge your listeners, like, when is the last time any of you have sat in a room by yourself, completely silent, completely still, not reading a book, not scrolling through your phone, just you're with yourself. Not even meditating with music or anything like that, but just sitting and thinking and being. And that'll tell you too, like, oh God, how plugged in am I? I think a lot of us don't really think about it.
Yeah, and I think your story about you being in your bedroom, laying there, processing your feelings, but truly,
Yes.
like, I think
Yes.
that there is a connection to this. I was in this apprenticeship with grief course, and they talked about this productization of humans and how these college kids had basically, created the notion or the lived experience that they really couldn't have any other emotions other than like happiness and, really the ones that are associated with going to work, producing, and not being a deterrent to the system
Yep.
getting what it needs from you. Like really productizing the grief, the sadness, the anger, the unfortunate emotions out of your experience. And I think to me, like that and nervous system regulation are so, because you actually, ironically, to have a good nervous system, you actually have to feel all of your feelings and let those flow through you. So I would love to talk too about, Alex, with your work with breath work. I've been so fortunate to experience it a couple times, and that's only because we've only been in person a couple times in our lives. But every time we've been in person, I have had transcendental experiences with your breath work. And now you also do Reiki. But I would love to
he's so good at
hear about
Reiki.
I need to experience it, but that connection to nervous system regulation and being able to hear and experience yourself and how that connects to Unreachable.
Well, sure. I mean, so breath work is the remote control to the nervous system. That's how I've always heard it put. That's how I put it. And it is. It helps us to grow this resilience within our nervous system so that we can have sadness and re-regulate. We can have grief. We can have anger. We can have all the things without going too far this direction or too far this direction on the spectrum, and being able to self-soothe and come back to ourselves. And I think one of the biggest things in terms of the nervous system is, again, with breath work, it's usually not about the breath. It's about you becoming aware of, oh my God, this has been happening to me every single day for the last 5 weeks, 5 hours, whatever it is. The timing doesn't really matter, but you noticing, like, when I talk to so and so, or when I do this, that, and the other at work, or when I'm trying to be there for my kids, this is how I feel in that moment. And it could be really great, but it could also be really, you know, kind of dysfunctional, kind of icky, kind of like you don't want to feel like that anymore. And the breath just, it truly allows you to come back to the body and connect the mind and the body so that they start to talk to each other like teammates, instead of like, no, I'm going to take over and do this right now. No, we're going to do this right now because you have to sit here for 5 hours. And just, again, becoming aware and learning for yourself, this is how I want to feel. I know I have to do these things. I know I have to go to work. I know I have to be with the kids. And it allows you to return to this presence that I think we've all just really forgotten. And when you start to become present, talking to your kids, playing Legos, drawing, cooking dinner with the family together, sitting down at the dinner table, um, which was a huge thing for my mom when I was little. No matter what, we were sitting down, having a meal, having a conversation, and we're going to be at the dinner table. We're not standing up. We're not sitting over on the floor or in chairs or in the living room or anything. We're connecting and doing these things that are nourishing for our nervous system. We need that connection. Every time someone goes to lunch, and yeah, this varies from person to person. You might have 10 minutes for lunch, but I want to urge your listeners to think about this. Every time you have lunch, if you go into an office for work, are you standing? Are you reading something? Are you looking at a screen? Are you not being there with yourself and eating lunch? Every time you look at something while you're eating food, you shut your digestion off.
Yep.
Because your mind and your nervous system thinks that I need to pay attention to this thing that you're looking at with your eyes. So digestion gets shut off, increased blood pressure to work through the food, salivation shuts down and slows down, so you're not breaking down the food properly. And that's why in the mental health realm, most people that have anxiety, which is pretty much 95% of human beings nowadays, that's why they have stomach problems. It's because it starts right there, because digestion isn't performing properly, because they're distracted, and it's about, again, getting that awareness back with the breath, or with meditation, or with whatever works for you, whatever modality, that you feel good with. And then realizing, like, I'm not going to bend or break with certain things now, because I want my nervous system to be balanced. I want to be able to upregulate when I need to, and then to recover when I need to. And you start to feel better. And like Rea said, some of these things are instant.
Instant. Yeah.
They happen within like 10 minutes. And it's just about you being in that pocket and noticing, like, oh, I've been up here constantly, and I've been blaming it on everybody else and work and life and all this stuff, when it's kind of my fault, because I decided somewhere along the way that, no, it's just how it is. And you know I get a day off on Saturday, so I'll make sure I take care of myself on Saturday. And it's like, no, like, take care of yourself right now. It doesn't have to be for hours or days. You can do 10 minutes or even 5 minutes. you know really feel what you felt when you had a business meeting that day or the other day, and someone got you riled up because they were picking on you or whatever. It's like, feel it. You're allowed to feel it. And I urge the listeners to feel absolutely everything. Most emotional states nowadays, they last between 90 seconds to 2 minutes. The actual emotion of you feeling the thing. And the problem that ends up happening is, because we can ruminate, we're the only animal on earth that can ruminate about it, is we might get through the emotion. We might be pissed off at the person for 90 seconds and it's gone through us and everything, but we think about it and overanalyze it and do all those things. Like, if you feel like throwing a tantrum, throw a tantrum.
That's why kids are so great. They throw a tantrum, they get it out of their bodies. And the thing to remember, like he said, if you're ruminating or in your head a lot, your brain doesn't know the difference between what is reality, what's actually happening, and what you're thinking about. Like, our brains are that powerful. So if you're someone who's just constantly thinking and worrying about, X, Y, and whatever it is, money, your spouse, the person who cut you off in traffic, you keep your body in that perpetual state. And what I love about breath work, and his breath work journey specifically, is, like you said, Marley, I mean, you can have these transcendental experiences, but you're also so present. Your mind cannot wander when you're in a breath journey. Like, you are there with your breath. Your brain almost kind of shuts off and your body takes over. But it is such this, like, beautiful, I think for me, it's such a release. Like, I didn't even know half the stuff that I was carrying that is able to be released. And I'm allowing myself just the beautiful privilege of laying on my back for 60 minutes with myself, breathing. Like, Alex is a wonderful facilitator, but he's not doing anything. Like, it's called breath work, I think, for a reason, because it is a little bit of work. But like he said, you might not have 60 minutes. So there are all these amazing little tools that you can use and start to implement in your life. But you have to first become aware of how you are feeling. And I think I would say most of us are living in a state of nervous system dysregulation. One of the things we are really passionate about at Unreachable is this nervous system literacy, like understanding how the nervous system works, and realizing you're never going to be, it's like hormones. You're never just going to get your nervous system regulated and you stay there forever. It needs to move. It needs to go up and down and be able to respond accurately. But because we have so much stress that is caused from our environment, from what we're eating, from lack of community, from isolation, loneliness, comparison, technology, we don't even know what a regulated state feels like. And breath work, I think, I mean, just like meditation, it can drop you into that heart opening experience where you almost return to that just amazing state, your natural state that we can't find when we are buried behind all of the information and all of the screens and all of the to-dos. And it's just all so much simpler than that. And we get to choose. We are sovereign beings. We get to choose how we spend our time and where we place our attention. And that's the thing that we have to remember. Excuse me. It's not like, oh, this is just the way that it is, and I have to be on social media, or I have to respond to this email right this very second. You know, I put my phone away around 4 or 5 p.m. I do not take it out when we go to dinner. I go on phone free walks all the time. I don't touch it usually before 8 or 9 a.m. And guess what? I'm not missing anything. I mean, I can feel my system able to kind of like come back into balance when I do step away from the computer, the television, the phone. And it is immediate. Like so many of these things, you can have such immediate positive effects. And guess what? They're all free. It's all just shifting where you're placing your time and attention. And that's what's so cool about it. It's not some like hack or program that you have to buy. It's just you, your body. It's you. You are the tool. You are the mechanism for change.
I love a phone free walk. I
Oh,
love
it's the best.
everything that you all are saying. And, recently I heard, and it was so wild because I don't even know where I was or what I was doing, but and it's exactly what you already know. When you are focused on your breath, you have no other option as a living human being than to be present. You have to be present. And like with your breath work, it begins with this depth of presence, but then it really goes into deep subconscious. What I feel, is exactly like you said, it's a mind, body, spirit connection. It's like the trifecta of all parts. And I think with our society, we're so taught to be so mind centric, which is really a disservice to ourselves. Our hearts, our souls, our bodies have so much wisdom, and nature has so much wisdom. If we actually can get our minds to collaborate with all of these genius, amazing, and brilliant parts. And I think
Yes.
recently, what's been really interesting that I've been noticing is I make a very much a practice to be with my grief, pain, sadness, whatever is coming, and enjoying it, because I believe that's part of the human experience. It's why we're all here. Is like, it would be boring if we were just in joy and happiness all the time. Like sometimes those heart-wrenching moments are so full of life. Like the sadness that I've experienced has been like also some of the most memorable and beautiful times. But the last 2 nights I have felt overwhelmed with like sadness, and I have
Mm.
just cried, and not attaching or needing to search for where it's coming from or what it's
Yep.
associated with,
To name it.
and just letting it be. But like recently too, when I've gone on my walks, I will go outside and it's almost like I'm hit with a wave of grief. And
Mm.
sometimes I don't even think it's mine. I feel like it's like the weight of like the world or the area or something. And I'll start yawning and start like
Mm.
having this like body reaction. And that's the other part, is like, of course we can trace our trauma and like forgive that version of ourselves for whatever we experience, but we also don't have to attach meaning to everything that's coming up. But like with breath work, I oftentimes have found, connection to my ancestors, or like really beautiful, happy and like love filled, or like sadness, like it's really runs the gamut. And, Rea, you started to touch on um this idea of really business, Unreachable being a business that is disconnected from this idea that you have to have this social media, insane presence everywhere in order to find success. And I would
Yeah.
love to hear more about how you envision, that world, and that, what your paths to success are that are
Yeah.
not part of
Uh,
the
part,
matrix.
well, right. And I mean, I love that question so much because, even Unreachable aside, I want to be an author who is wildly successful without social media, which we are told we cannot do. Nope, not allowed, can't do it. And to date, I have deleted Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and I still have Instagram. So that's the only thing I have. And I haven't posted anything in months. And let me tell you, that is my new addiction. Is I've had like this a spare story or here and there, but it is so incredible, like once you do disconnect yourself from that, to realize it's kind of sad. It's a double-edged sword. The moment you're gone, no one cares. No one cares that you're not there. I mean, it just everything vanishes, all that support, all that love. But then being the voyeur, so like if you are on social media, you are a voyeur. I feel like we're all narcissistic and we're all voyeuristic because we are, really wanting like to build this big brand and have a million followers and and I've never wanted that. That's never felt good for me. It doesn't feel comfortable. I don't want that many people looking at my life. So I spent so many years thinking about this very question just as an author first, and being told by my publishers, like, you have to have social media. Like there's no other way. Like we didn't do it before. We didn't sell books before there was social media. I started in the publishing industry 20 years ago, before all of this was really popular. And I feel like we've just forgotten that there is this other way, that people used to build businesses without it. They used to be very successful, but it took more time. And so when we were putting Unreachable together, we were clear. We cannot be hypocrites and build this on social media when we know that all it creates is compulsive behavior. And I'm not vilifying social media. Like if it works for you, if you're making a ton of money, if it is a beautiful place for you to be, great. For me, it does not sell books for me. It does not get me business. And it just feels like one more thing that I have to do. And it's very sad that I don't know what's going on in a lot of people's lives if I'm not on there, if I'm not consuming, if I'm not liking and clicking and scrolling. And I'm like, ooh, I don't like that. I want to know what's going on with my community. And I don't want to have to get on an app in order to do so. So with Unreachable, we were clear, like, not going to do it on social media. So how are we going to build this business? So podcast, I love podcasts so much. I think, I am our daughter is a very audible learner. I think it's really fun to kind of, talk, and podcasts take a long time to grow, especially if you aren't building, this big online platform. But we knew we wanted to do that for us, for education, and just it's something we really enjoyed. And that's my first rule of marketing anything, is figuring out what you like to do and then ditching the rest. It's what I coach authors through. Every author that I have that comes to me, they're like, I hate social media. I'm like, great, then let's not be on it. Let's figure out another way. And so I know it's so old school, but I do think growing your email list is still king, because you own that. All these followings on TikTok and Instagram, you don't, just like the TikTok ban that happened, for like the day, so many people make all their money that way, but they don't own that information. They don't own their customers. But with your email list, you know who you're talking to, you can control it. So we did decide to create a newsletter on Substack, which, concerningly enough, I feel like is becoming a little bit social media-esque, with like the liking and the commenting. And so I'm kind of bummed about that. But it's where we do our podcast from. We have our newsletter there. And then realistically, we knew we were going to have to invest somewhere for people to know about us, because the purpose of having a business is that people know who you are and what you have to offer. So we did hire two publicists. Shout out to Sabina and Alex Hitchin of Press for Success. They are phenomenal. They have gotten us into the New York Times, on, CBS Saturday mornings, Good Day DC, ABC News Live. the Daily Mail, with a lot more exciting things to come. And we want to be on these bigger platforms where we can reach as many people as possible, but then we're not having to like, continuously
Did you post that?
did you post and scroll and all this stuff. So we are very realistic that it is going to take longer probably to build a community, or to, again, maybe someone who has a giant community is willing to share about us or our business or what we're doing, or share a podcast or a newsletter. Again, going on podcasts, that's another huge strategy. Writing for bigger outlets. I love writing essays and op-eds. So we're leaning into strategies that do work, that feel good for us, but it might not result in some viral video, that's gone the next day. I mean, that's the thing. I think if you are someone who is on social media, or you feel like you have to be, really look at the results that you're getting. Are you paying a bunch of money? I mean, they're all pay to play now, I feel like. Maybe not TikTok, but they're also saturated. And that's the other thing. We're like, do we want to go where everybody already is? Or let's look at some places that people might not be, or that where we really feel like we can own a space and grow it slowly but surely. And I'm still, I can't remember the guy who said it, but the whole like having 1,000 true fans, followers, community, whatever you want to say, is more helpful, useful, and real than having like 1 million followers who are not engaged with you, or they just might like scroll past. I don't know. I think that there are just so many other ways to grow your business that we've all just become blind to because we see what everyone's doing. And I would really challenge, like, ask yourself, is this something I enjoy or not? And I always joke to Alex, like, if we're all on our beds, which we will be one day, there is not a single person on earth who's like, man, I wish I had spent more time on Facebook or Instagram, or like, and when you look at collectively how much time you have spent, how many hours of your precious life you have spent looking into other people's lives, watching what they're doing, commenting on what they're doing. And we think that that is support. We think that's what it actually means to show up for people, is engaging with their content. And that's not showing up. Like, I would rather show up to my friends in real life and being there. And we're forgetting how to do that, how to show up in person, how to really offer our support, to listen without picking up your phone 25 times during a conversation. That is where I want to spend my time. And every time I go to pick up my phone, I do like kind of the pause method, like taking 3 deep breaths, or just like, what am I not trying to feel right now? Am I like excited that I'm going to get some like hit or text, or, I don't have email on my phone, so that's not there, but just really becoming aware of when you reach for those distractions. And
The why.
and again, when you build your business, like, what mechanisms are you using that are distractions, that don't feel in alignment with how you actually want to grow? So I think it's just, people have just kind of bought into, this is the way it is. Just like most people have a smartphone because that's what everybody else has. So I think we have to become just more aware and more conscious of how we actually want to exist in the world, and how we want to connect with other people and ourselves.
I mean, that resonates so deeply, and it's wild because, I have my personal Instagram, I have a business Instagram, I have
Sure.
print Instagram. I can
Yep.
say pretty confidently, I've never made a single dollar probably
Right.
from any of it. Like I could, like, not even like one thing that I really can trace, but it's weird because I still have this like weird commitment or like feeling of like FOMO, that if I do just totally disengage, that will be the day that, like, it comes in. And
No,
I
but
love
yeah.
your, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, but why? So what are you getting out of it? Why are you there?
Great question. And one that I've asked many times, and I think actually what it's taking away from me is probably a better question, because it doesn't feel good. It isn't viscerally like pleasing to me. And I think it's because of like followers. There is a sense of, with the work I do, of wanting to reach people, and
Sure.
but to your point, it's like you're choosing methods of conscious creation, intentional creation, through podcasts, through writing, which in the last month, I've become really tuned in to this idea of like, I really enjoy writing. And that is a creative, fun process for me. So like, how can I start to try to shift the way
Yeah.
that I engage with
Come
people?
on over to Substack, start yourself a newsletter. And what's so great about that is it is a place for longer form content. So whether it's a video, an audio, a post, it feels like a place for creatives, like a safe space to express yourself a little bit more. But I'm with you. I totally relate, right? Like, no, we don't have social media for Unreachable, but I still have my Instagram for my author account. And I don't have a massive following. I have like 20,000 followers, but those are readers of my books. And I'm like, if I press delete on this, will they even care? I mean, will they even remember me? Will they buy my books? How will they know about things? Like, it is such a catch 22, because you do, once you become quote unquote unreachable, you also become invisible in some ways. And I think so many of us are used to being visible and posting every little thing. Like, who gives a shit about what we ate that day? Or,
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually really skewed our sense of importance and entitlement, especially for children, to see themselves or their peers like constantly every single day, visible, 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 visible. And as humans, again, we were not supposed to be this visible, because it takes away from the internal parts of us, the analytical parts of us, the processing, the feeling, the emotions. Like, we need to be a whole human being. And when all of our attention is going into this place where you do your little reels and, oh, what song should I do? And, oh, what filter? I need to totally use Facetune or whatever it is to make yourself look better. And just really think about that process. Think about what you're doing, how it feels. And then if you are not getting the results that other, like, I see other authors who it works for them. I mean, they spend a lot of time there. I have a lot of friends who've got like hundreds of thousands of followers and they sell all their books that way. That has never worked for me, which tells me, I've even had healers and psychics and intuitives tell me that's not the way for you. I am all word of mouth. It's in my human design. Like, word of mouth is king for me. And I know social media can be that, but it's never worked for me the way that it's quote unquote supposed to work. So what am I doing? Why am I wasting a second of my time on there?
Yeah, like
I fight it. Yeah.
subtract it out of the daily life and see what
How you feel.
what
Yeah.
you can put into that space, or
Yep.
you don't put anything into that space. Maybe you leave that space open for other things.
And yet for you, if you got 3 accounts, but you're not seeing anything that's benefiting either you personally or the business, then it's time to pivot. And like, how empowering. I think anytime someone decides to pivot and decides to take their, business away from these money hungry corporations in general, it empowers someone to do the same. Truly it does. And like, oh, well, she did it. Like, maybe I should try that, and I don't know, it's a domino effect, but in the opposite way. I think in a way that really brings our time and attention back to places we actually want to be.
I love this all so much, and it's so inspirational. And it's funny because people tell me sometimes, if they avoid buying something or if they eat a little differently, they're like, I thought of you, and I do.
I love that.
I think of you guys though, a lot with all of this work. And I also just love you in general. But I think going forward, I would love to kind of close on hearing, how can people support you, and what are like 2 ways in which you would encourage people to just start thinking differently, which I think you've already really illustrated and given, like, really just that moment of pause. But
Yeah.
how can people support your business? How can people take the first step to becoming unreachable?
Yes. I'll do the unreachable thing. You can tell people where to start with, because this is my favorite thing with people, quote unquote, becoming unreachable. They're like, I don't know. I mean, I gotta have my technology. But one of the easiest ways, I think, is like Alex said earlier, it's just awareness of your habits. So the easiest thing, the easiest swap in the world that will have the most results is when you get up in the morning. First of all, are you sleeping with your phone in your room? If you are, get it out of your room. I know a lot of people are like, I gotta have it for emergencies, but what are you gonna do? Put it in the hallway so you can hear it if you need to, but you need to get the phone out of your room. It absolutely disturbs your hormones, your sleep. Just get it out of your room. And then really paying attention to when you reach for it first thing in the morning. Is it first thing in the morning? 85% of all people reach for their phones within the first hour of waking, which is crazy to me, because before you're even like feeling into the day, you were instantly into reactive mode, like instantly. And the moment you look at your phone before you have stepped outside to get natural sunlight, you are signaling the wrong hormones for your brain and body. You are signaling noon hormones and not morning hormones that you need, that you can only get from the sunlight. So if it's possible for you to step outside first, to look into the sky, if the sun's not up yet, if it's a cloudy day, don't look directly into the sun, but just feet on the earth if it's possible, looking at the sun coming into the day and delaying when you reach for that phone. Number one, easiest thing everyone can do, even if it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and that will totally shift how you feel. And then with Unreachable, we create every single day what's called an unreachable hour, or it can be an unreachable window of 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, where all tech is away and you are, sure, you could read a book, you could meditate, but I love going on a walk, like a phone-free walk. Just something you're doing without technology, without your little earbuds, without a wearable, where it is just you doing another offline activity, and starting to program that into your day. The healthiest thing to like more, if you delay your phone in the morning, see if you can do that at night, because it's the same thing. If you're looking at your phone after the sun goes down, you're delaying the production of melatonin, which you need to sleep. It's why so many people don't sleep well, because they're just sitting in their bed, like scrolling on their phones. So yes, this is all about, like, we're talking very heavily about the digital side of things, but it is affecting our hormones, our mental health,
Our nervous
our
system.
circadian rhythms, our nervous system. So that's so simple, and it's something that you have control over, and it's just a habit. That's all it is just noticing your habits and seeing if you can shift, and then how noticing how you feel. We have had so many people do this one thing with the mornings, and they're like, "Oh my God, I feel so different. My day is so amazing. I'm outside, I'm listening to the birds. I don't even want to reach for my phone." So it becomes kind of this new addiction, because you're able to just be with yourself first. Okay, how can people find us?
Yeah. So if you want to find out what we're doing, where to find us, unreachable.life is our website. It's got absolutely everything on it. You can go to our Substack from there. Newsletter. We do this $10 a month paid subscription. You get all kinds of goodies, these special unreachable to-do lists and how to subtract things, and you get a 10-minute breathing protocol that comes along with that. We do a free 5-minute breathing protocol after every podcast episode.
Yep, end of every podcast.
Those are also available on our website.
For purchase. So he has his little 5-minute protocols, 10-minute protocols that are $5 or $10. We have an Unreachable journal that we launched that I'm like obsessed with. And we are partnered with charities for each product that we have, where a portion of the proceeds goes to that charity to support human performance, breathing, children's literacy, like very, very important to us as well. But yeah, everything lives on the hub of our website. That is how people find us. We offer coaching, different services, but it's all there at unreachable.life.
Amazing. And we will have all of that in the show notes, all the links and everything. And
One link.
oh, yeah, one link.
Yeah, pretty much one link. Yeah.
But I love that, you really are talking about starting your day, raising your consciousness, which I think is
Oh,
so connected to what many, many of our problems are, is just not being really fully conscious in our bodies and in our presence and in what we are allowing to happen in the world around
and
us.
and 95% of our thoughts are the same thoughts that we had yesterday and the day before. And when you get up and you just do the same thing, notice like you were thinking, our brains come online first thing, right? And so then we're just responding to, I got to make the kids lunch, and I got to check my emails, and what do I have to do today, before you've even taken a moment to check in with yourself. How are you feeling? What do you need this morning? How can you nourish yourself? Even if it is 5 minutes before you start giving to other people or giving to your technology, what can you give to yourself? It's just the little tweak that has changed our lives completely.
I love that so much. You all are such a gift. Thank you for this
Such a
important
gift.
and major work that you're doing. I'm so grateful to have you here. And if there's any final words, obviously we've kind of we've done it all. But if there's anything else you want to share, I want to give you the space for that. But otherwise, just huge, huge gratitude to you both. And I am a unreachable. I get the newsletters. They're always amazing and filled with so much beauty and wealth of real goodness that can help you raise your consciousness.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for having us, and your mission and your work. It just feels so aligned to be on this podcast. And we can't wait to have you on ours as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Amazing. Thank you.